Hey, Rob and Corey, this is Rob and Jess for RHAP. Congratulations on a really, really great run here on Amazing Race.
Thank you. It was such a fun, just absolute journey of a lifetime. Yeah, living the dream.
Can you two talk a little bit about the response that you got running this race on television?
Yeah, it's been awesome. We've had so many people reach out with just like such kindness and love. The amount of people that have been like, "Hey, I'm a Coda, and I'm so proud that I get to see like my culture and my like lifestyle represented on TV." Or, "Hey, like you're doing such a good job representing deaf culture." And that was really what we set out to do, was just to show the power of sign language and how that can be such an important part of a really strong relationship. So it's been really cool, just the outpouring of love that we've received, and hoping that a lot of people feel really represented on TV, because if you can see yourself up there, like, you can do it. So that was the goal.
All right. Well, before I ask my question, I wanted to say congratulations and thank you for talking with us. Um, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that final leg. And specifically, it seemed from watching that the point where you fell out of it was when you got lost. Is that accurate? And about how much time do you think you lost getting lost?
Yeah. We got pretty lost, and that was definitely the killer for us, because the tasks, I think we crushed them. The grab, I did first try. My dad did relatively quick, took him a few more tries. Grunge, we were in and out a few minutes behind Joel and Garrett, and they had a longer drive to go to grab, and we had a quicker journey over to glass. And then it took us like 2 tries on glass. Like it was quick. It was really fast. And so we felt like we were in a really good position. Unfortunately, it's the amazing race, not the amazing task accomplishments. And if you can't get from point A to point B, that's the game. And we were in such a rush, because the adrenaline on that final leg is unlike anything I've ever felt in my life. And we tried to pull aside someone for directions. It was nighttime in Seattle. They were like, "Oh, well, we have to get into our Uber. We have to go. We have to go." And we're like, "Please, like, we need these directions. Give us just a minute, just a minute." And so I think while scrambling for these directions, I flip-flopped one of the steps or missed one entirely. And as we're driving, we just, I think, passed the exit that we needed. So we ended up having to pull over in like a small town outside of Seattle. Couldn't find anyone on the side of the street for directions for a while. End up like pulling over at a grocery store to get directions. And it was just a little more difficult to course correct in the middle of the night outside of Seattle than we'd experienced before. And we got lost twice for probably about like 20, 15 minutes each, something like that. And with how tight these teams were and how good of communicators and navigators we were, that'll do it. That's the race right there.
You two had a different strategy than the other teams to try to go from to go in a different direction, different order of those scramble tasks. Did that have anything to do with how things ultimately fared out?
I don't think so. Our strategy was to start with grab, because we had a map of downtown Seattle and grab was outside of the map. So we figured we're relatively familiar with Seattle, so we are going to get the step-by-step directions to grab. And then it's pretty easy to find your way into the heart of Seattle from there. Just drive north and you'll end up at the gum wall pretty quick, So we just kind of knew, let's get these step-by-step directions, get the difficult one out of the way. It was also a pretty busy day because it was a weekend. I want to say it was like the All-Star weekend, and that happened to be in Seattle. So we knew stay off I-5, drive the downtown roads, and, finagled our way down. And then it was pretty easy to shoot back into the heart of Seattle. And then once we were leaving Seattle was where things got a little sticky. But I was really happy with our strategy. I think it worked out. The order, I don't think I would change it. Yeah, and then on the off chance that the closest task had been a pull a number and wait for your turn, that would be wasting some time too. So there were a lot of things where I said, you know what, let's go to the further one, and hopefully there's no other teams there. So that way we've got our own space. We run our race.
Now, all things being equal, how well do you think you would have done with that final memory task versus the other two teams?
I believe that we crushed it. Like, I have been training for the final memory challenge. Our notes were so thorough, and a benefit that we had was because sign language is our primary language. We would rehearse on planes together and not have to worry about other teams knowing what we were doing, because we could just keep doing it and no one knows any different. So we actually had a system where every single flight we would rehearse the entire race, start to finish, every roadblock, every detour, every pit stop greeter, everything. And I would set a timer, and I got down to the point where I could recite the full race in about 7-8 minutes. So like, there was not a single mistake. We were done within minutes of showing up. So I think if we had been there at the same time, I think we would have done real well. Yeah, I'm very much a planner. I know that there are so many people that have lost it at the memory challenge, and that was not going to be us. I went into it going, if we get to that memory challenge, we're nailing it. That is something that's well within our control.
So, as a dad, I just thought that the relationship that you two have is just so cool and was so fun to watch the two of you together on the race. It seems like that you two never got into any arguments or disagreements over the course of the race. Is that actually how it was?
I don't think we ever had an argument. There were no like, God, are you serious? It was, a couple times where like, yeah, yeah. I think the closest thing we had was they show a scene of in India where my dad's like, this is frustrating. This taxi driver is ridiculous. And I was like, calm down. And so there were a few times where we had like established, when the other person's frustrated, we need to make sure that it's clarified that like it's us two working together here. So that like frustration is never at the other person. I think at one point during the express pass climb with the other teams behind us, I started pushing my dad up the stairs a little bit, and he turns around and he goes, calm down. I need a second. And I was like, all right, that's fair. This is a tough climb. So it was very like, there were a couple brief moments where you'd be like, I'm a little frustrated, and we were really good about giving each other the space to process it.
So it seems like you are pretty settled and secure in what your relationship is to each other. Has being on the race changed your relationship at all?
Honestly, I don't think so. We went into this race really, really close. Like, you know, I mentioned it before, growing up, he was my best friend. I'd come home from school, we'd play catch, we played video games together. Like, we were always so, so close. And, you know, I come home really often for holidays, spend a lot of time with my family. You know, we're a really close family. And before going on to the race, my dad kind of sat me down and he says, "Hey, like, I want to make sure you know when we do this race, we're equals. Like, I am not your father leading you through the race. I'm not going to have the end all be all final say. Like, you're just as good of a racer as I will be. And this is going to take a team to accomplish. I can't do it myself. You can't do it yourself." And I was like, "Yeah, I agree. We are equals. Roadblock Rob and Corey are going to make their way to the finals."
So, Corey, we had a big question after last week's episode. We wanted to know, did you and the river dance instructor keep in contact after the amazing race?
We did get in contact after the race, very briefly, chatted for a little bit, and nothing really came of it. I know that people online are really talking it up, but it was just, you know, a quick moment of, "Hey, it was really great to meet you. This was so fun, really cool." But yeah, nothing really came of it. Sorry to let the fans down.
Crushed. I actually had a question about that Ireland leg for you, Corey. Um, we saw it at the point where you had to memorize a James Joyce quote, and Rob says that he did very well with this quote because he was translating it into sign language in his head. And I wondered if being able to sign the quote at the same time would have been a helpful thing as far as you memorizing the quote, and is it something you thought about doing?
Um, yeah, that's interesting. Not necessarily. I think that there's definitely, you know, there's study strategies like chew the same flavor gum while you're studying and chew that same while you're taking the test. There are different things you can include, like
Wow.
the physical representation of it in order to establish the memory. I didn't feel that it was long enough that I would need to memorize the concepts. And to me, translating it word for word into sign language as opposed to translating it conceptually is kind of a different thing. So I was pretty happy to just like do it in one language and pick and stick to it. And yeah, it didn't really cross my mind to do that.
Can you two talk a little bit about how you ended up on the amazing race? Was there one of the two of you that was really pushing for it?
I think I was like 12 when that season came out. And so, thank you. So I was 11, and we watched that season and I told my mom and dad, like, oh, you guys should go on the show. And my mom's like, no, absolutely not. And then she's kind of like, well, someday when you're old enough, you two go on it. And so we said, okay. And so it became whenever we watched, we would, strategize, oh, who would do that task? Who would do this task? And it became like a family game for so long that one day, a couple of years ago, I saw someone post about it online. I was like, you know what? Let's take this serious. Let's do it. So I came home for Christmas and I said, all right, let's film our videos. My little brother did all the editing. My mom prompted our interview questions, helped us practice. And it was really just like the McArthur family, task. Like we all did it together and it was really cool. And we really didn't think we'd ever hear back. And at the very least, it was a really cool reflection point for us as a family to talk about our relationship. And it was really cool. And no one I'd have more confidence in than my dad.
That's just incredible. And your relationship has just over and above your bigger story. The bond that the two of you have has been so inspirational and so great to watch. We've really enjoyed seeing you on the race.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Is there anything else you want the audience of the podcast to know about you two and your journey?
I can't think of anything other than this was an absolute dream, journey of a lifetime. We had so much fun. We hope that other people are inspired to learn sign language, and we're hoping to get that call back for an Unfinished Business season 2.
Well, thank you both again for making some time to talk this all through with us, and all the best to you both outside of the amazing race.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It was fun talking with y'all.
Thank you.